They say the worst temptations don't come from strangers, they come from the people you were told you should never want. And that night, I learned exactly how true that was. I should have left the party when Matt did. That would have been the safe, sensible choice. But sensible choices don't usually leave you with a story you can't forget. The air in Olivia's apartment seemed to hum that night. The music wasn't loud, but it pulsed low like a heartbeat through the walls. People drifted in and out of the kitchen, drinks in hand, conversations weaving together like smoke. I was nursing the same glass of wine I'd been holding for an hour, more out of habit than thirst. But if I was being honest, I was watching the door for someone I shouldn't have been hoping to see. And then there he was.
Jake.
He hadn't changed much since Emily broke up with him 6 months ago. Maybe he'd trimmed his hair a little shorter. Maybe his jaw was leaner now, but that walk, slow, confident, and unapologetic, was exactly the same. The room didn't seem to notice him, but I felt his arrival like a shift in gravity. My grip tightened on my glass. I shouldn't have been surprised. Mutual friends, same city. Eventually, we were bound to cross paths. Still, I hadn't spoken to Jake since the breakup. Emily, my best friend since high school, had made it clear that she didn't mind if other people stayed in touch with him, but she'd prefer I didn't. And I respected that boundary. Until now. Jake's eyes found mine across the room and held them without hesitation. No nervous smile, no second glance, just a steady, almost challenging look that lingered a beat too long before he turned and headed toward the bar. I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. Matt had already left an hour earlier for his early morning shift, kissing my cheek absently on the way out with a casual try to have fun, the way you tell someone to drive safe. Lately, his presence felt more like routine than connection. Maybe I'd grown distant too. The second time Jake passed me, he stopped. "Claire," he said, as if my name tasted familiar on his tongue. "Didn't expect to see you here," I replied. "Didn't expect to come," he said with a half smile. "But here we are." He wasn't looking at me the way a friend's ex should. There was no restraint. His gaze wandered, not in a disrespectful way, but with the curiosity of someone who remembered something they'd never truly had. "You look better than I remembered." I raised an eyebrow. "That's dangerous talk, considering whose memories you're talking about." Jake leaned against the counter beside me. Not too close, but close enough that it felt intentional. I've never been great at avoiding danger. And just like that, the conversation felt far too easy. Too familiar. Like we hadn't spent years on opposite sides of a loyalty line. "You still with the doctor?" he asked, voice lowering. "Matt." I hesitated. "Yeah." "And he treats you right?" That should have been an easy yes. But I paused. "He's good." "Predictable." Jake's smile deepened. "Sounds like a safe choice." "Maybe that's what I need." "Or maybe," he said quietly, "you've just convinced yourself that's all you should ask for." His words landed like a soft touch down my spine, suggestive, dangerous. I stepped away, placing my empty glass on the table. "You really haven't changed. And you," he said, eyes following me, "have." I left the kitchen, telling myself I needed space. But all night, I could feel him somewhere in the background, the way you can feel the presence of a song you're not supposed to dance to. Every time I laughed too loud or glanced too long across the room, I wondered if he was watching. And when I caught him doing exactly that, my pulse betrayed me. He never touched me, never said another word. But when I left that party alone, I carried something with me I hadn't brought in, a deep, dangerous crack in the surface of my carefully drawn lines. 3 days passed. 3 restless, slow-burning days. I didn't text Jake. I didn't save his number either, but I didn't delete it. Then a message. "Jake. Hey, I think I left my ring at Olivia's. You didn't happen to see it, did you?" I stared at the screen longer than I should have before replying. "Me. I don't remember seeing it. Want me to check?" "Jake. If it's not too much trouble. Coffee's on me if you find it." I didn't find a ring, but I told him I did. We met at a little cafe near my apartment. The rain streaked the windows in soft gray lines. He was already seated when I arrived, black sweater sleeves pushed up, a book beside his untouched espresso. I couldn't remember the title. I only remembered the way his eyes looked at me, steady, curious, and faintly dangerous. No ring? He asked after a hello. Slipped my mind, I said with a faint shrug. His smirk was almost imperceptible, like he knew exactly what I was doing and liked that I'd done it. We talked about work, the city, the cold weather, safe things.
He asked about Matt.
I kept my answer short. He didn't press. But the pauses between our words seemed to fill with something heavier. When I said I should go, he offered to drive me. My place is only a block from here, I protested. All the more reason not to get soaked. The car smelled faintly of cedar and mint. The silence between us felt charged, like the air just before a storm. When we pulled up in front of my building, I hesitated before asking, "Want to come up?" Just until the rain stops. Inside, my apartment felt smaller, warmer, and far more dangerous with him in it. Jake's eyes landed on a framed photo of me and Emily on my hallway shelf. "She's still your best friend?" he asked. "She always will be." Then what are we doing? I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, but saying it out loud would make it real. He stepped toward the door. "I should go." "Then go," I said, but I didn't mean it. He didn't leave. He turned back, closing the distance between us in one slow, deliberate step. "Tell me to leave," he said softly. I could have. I should have. But instead, I found myself leaning closer until the space between us disappeared. When he kissed me, it was the kind of kiss that pulled you under, slow at first, then deep enough to feel like the room had vanished around us. It wasn't just physical. It was a pull into something I knew I shouldn't want but couldn't stop. I don't know how long we stood there before he stepped back, his breathing uneven. "Claire," he began but stopped. The sound of rain against the windows filled the silence. When he finally left, the click of the door sounded louder than it should have. I stood there, feeling like someone had taken the version of me I'd always known and replaced her with someone I barely recognized. Days later, Emily showed up unannounced, arms full of thrifted books and her usual easy smile. We laughed over tea like always until she said casually, "Jake called me." I froze. "What for?" He said he'd been thinking about old times. His voice sounded different, like he wanted to say something but didn't. I forced a neutral tone. "Maybe he's just lonely." "Maybe," she said, but it felt like something else. After she left, I found myself in my bedroom, pulling open a drawer I hadn't touched since that night. Jake's scarf was still there. I lifted it to my face before I could stop myself. The scent, warm and sharp, pulled me back into a moment I couldn't undo. Matt had been trying more lately, bringing home dinner, asking about my day, touching me with a gentle consistency that used to feel enough. I told myself I wanted to meet him halfway, but some part of me stayed somewhere else entirely. One morning, Jake's name lit up my phone again. "Jake, I shouldn't have reached out to Emily. I just couldn't stop thinking about you." I typed back, "You shouldn't have come over that night." His reply was instant. "Jake, do you regret it?" I stared at the screen, unable to answer. Because the truth was, I didn't know, and maybe I still don't.